Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest CADS podcast. We're here tonight with just John tonight, just me and John here having a chat, and we're going to be talking about Spurs seesaw season. It persists, it's carrying on, it's going to keep going. How long for? That's the question. How long can this keep going on? We're going to be talking RZ Alkmaar first. I think it's probably the more interesting game. It's probably the more upbeat game to talk about because we definitely got a better result. But we will definitely be talking about that Fulham match as well and what may be coming in the future. Hey, John, how you doing?
I'm fine. I'm fine. In fact, I'm just thanking God that I decided not to go to the Fulham game yesterday.
You were on my thoughts. I was like, is John in the crowd there? Is he putting up with this? Is he
Yeah,
having to live through it? Oh, dearie
yeah.
me.
I mean,
But let's
I'm
talk.
seriously
Yeah, go
gone.
on.
Now, I'm seriously considering whether it is actually worth going to any more of the away games this season. I mean, just I really had enough of it, really.
Fair, that's fair enough, I guess. I mean, away results, not our finest moment of any kind of results in the league recently, not our finest moment. But we're going to get to the league in a bit. Let's very quickly talk about RZ Alkmaar, the match that did see us qualify for the quarterfinals in the Europa League. And what did you take of it? What did you take away? What did you think?
Well, as I said, I think before, yet again, another performance. Look, there were positives in the game, and obviously the most biggest one being that we got through. But yet again, we made heavy weather of it, and there were, when it looked like we were coasting, we then let them back into the game, and then they had chances at the end where it could have
Mhm.
pushed us into extra time. You know, I, I've almost forgotten, the positive performances in the game. I can't remember. I actually can't really remember who played well and who didn't play well. I think
Oh,
Bergwijn
well,
played well,
I
didn't
might be able to jog your memory a little bit. Bergwijn played extremely
he? Yeah,
well, I felt.
yeah,
Um, we had good play from Son. We had two assists from Solanke and two goals from Odegaard. So those were the
yes, of
standouts.
course.
And of course, we had the big two at the back,
Yeah,
Romero
yeah,
and Van de Ven, which is
yeah.
always nice to see.
Mind you, what's happened to Van der Ven? I mean, he wasn't used yesterday. I mean, I know he's trying to ease him back in, but he didn't have any minutes into the game yesterday, did he at all?
Yeah, I kind of have some sympathy for that. My general feeling is it's probably not a good idea to sub one injury risk and bring in another injury risk to replace him because if something goes wrong, you've then got to use another sub to replace them again. So bringing in someone who, bringing on a midfielder and letting Archie Gray go into defence where he's done very well for much of this season was probably looked at as the safer option. It's just a little bit unfortunate it didn't really turn out like that because I personally felt that Archie Gray didn't have his best period in a Spurs shirt. Let's put it that way.
No, no. It's funny. Since he's had a little bit of a rest, he's actually come when he has come on or he's played, he hasn't actually been quite as good as he has been. So maybe the moral there is he needs to keep on playing.
But I mean, the thing I'm taking away from this week, Andy R on the forum probably put it better than me. He said we convincingly won our most important game this week, ensuring we still have something to play for this season. I think we all would have taken a win and a loss in that order at the beginning of the week. I mean, I certainly would. I would have accepted it. Certainly because Fulham are a team who we've struggled against in the past, and their manager certainly has maybe got the upper hand against Ange a couple of times. And I know you're a big fan of the Fulham manager. What are your thoughts on him?
Well, I've said it many times. I think both Fulham and Bournemouth, they're very, you can see that they're a very well coached teams, and either one of those I'd welcome to take over at the club. I'll be honest, And listen, if Spurs go on and go on and win the Europa League this season, I'm definitely of the opinion, and I think there's a lot of Spurs fans now of the opinion that I still don't want Ange to be there next season. To be quite honest, you know,
I'm
my
I'm still on the Ange train. I'm still there. I'm still with him. My opinion is that, the guys you've talked about, none of them have gone through a European campaign with their clubs. None of them have had to juggle Premier League and European football, playing every 3 to 4 days over an extended period of time. And I think that is a demand and something that is extremely difficult to handle. And until you've seen someone do it, you don't know if they can do it.
right,
Now, we struggled this year.
has Ange done it well? I mean, I
That's
know we've got,
this is the other thing. We
I know we've
don't
got to,
know.
well, I
We
know we've
still
got
don't
to the
know
quarter
because he's
final,
been he's
but
been dealing with injuries all season long. And people now are saying, "Oh, but the injuries are all over." No, the injuries are not over. Players are starting to come back, but none of them are fully fit. I mean, did you think that Destiny Doggy, for instance, looked fully fit in
no,
yesterday's game?
I totally agree with that. In fact, you know, I forgot to say, talking about the AZ game and actually and the Fulham game. I mean, so far since Solanke's come back, I don't think he's looked. I mean, he really looks like he's not playing his A game at the moment. And obviously, I think it's partly because he's trying to fight, he's trying to get his fitness again. But so far, he's not had. I, I know you also say, well, he had 2 assists the other night, but overall, watching the whole game, I just don't see him giving us what he was giving us prior to his injury.
Agreed.
I'm not.
Um, I think the flip side of that is I don't think our approach play this season, has been as good as it was this last season. At the start of last season, we were cutting sides apart. We were having little patterns of play that just created space, and the movement was creating opportunities in the box for our forwards to score goals. Now we don't seem to be doing that. It seems to be a little bit forced, a little bit laboured. Is that because the players are too tired? Because they're being asked to do too much in a small squad? Um, or is it simply that we've been sort of figured out a little bit? We're expecting other clubs to be able to open up for us, and they're just not doing it.
Look, the injuries has definitely taken their toll over the team and the team play during the season. But this is if you took those 10 games out of the equation from the start of last season, our play, it was very fast and attacking. It was exciting to watch. It was
Mhm.
exhilarating to watch those first 10 games. But what we've seen since then, and there's been an odd game here and there where you think, oh yeah, they're back to their best. But in most part, our football is pedestrian. It's awful. You know,
We've had glimpses this season where things look really good, and I'm still of the opinion, having seen a bit of Ange at Celtic, and having seen those first 10 games from last season, that that is what he wants to play. That's the way he wants his teams to play football. And I'm pretty sure he's going to be very unhappy with what he's been seeing for most of this season. Again, we've seen some glimpses this season, but we haven't seen consistent games. We've seen 45 minutes here, 45 minutes there, but we haven't seen us put together 90 minutes back to back where we've absolutely dominated the side and been fantastic. So I very much doubt that Ange is happy with that at all. And if he's not happy with it, then he'll be working to make it right. I mean, this is a guy who's been coaching for 27 years. He started coaching when I was still in school. So it's kind of nuts. He started in 1996. I didn't enter the workforce for another 2 years. So it's 29 years, even longer. So this is a guy who has plenty of experience, who knows what he's doing, has worked at different levels, has worked at international level, has worked at clubs again at various levels. And this is a guy, if he leaves, you know he's going to get picked up by someone else. You just know he's going to get picked up by someone else, and his numbers are still overall very good throughout his career. And I want him to come and stay with us and show us what he can do at Tottenham with the backing that we can give him. Now, I understand why people like yourself are unhappy, why, and there's plenty of people out there who are unhappy with what they've seen. And I'm not happy with the actual quality of football we've seen for much of this season, but I do believe that we can get better from him, from Ange, and we don't need to change the manager to do that. To do that.
Look, a very simple question. With the same players that we have now, and at
Yeah.
their level of fitness that they are now, if somebody was to come in who was tactically astute, would they be getting a better result out of these same set of players? And I believe that they would do. I very much believe that they would do. I mean, I know you was questioning, saying that uh, um, Silver, etc. They've not had to juggle with a European schedule and the domestic schedule and all this lot.
Hmm.
But in my opinion, I don't think Ange's. I don't think his record with Celtic wasn't particularly great in Europe anyway, and I don't think we've been particularly great in our matches in the Europa League. I mean, a Premier League team should be able to get through that group fairly easily, right? So is it such a just the words around my head, but is it a real proof of his ability that we've got through and finished in the top eight? I don't believe it is. And as I said, we were very, very poor away to AZ, and obviously we were a lot better in the home game. But I'm afraid if we play like we did against AZ and in the match against Eintracht, then I think we'll be going out. And that is why if Pochers has already alluded to the fact that he'd like to come back. Now I presume he's meaning at a later date. I presume he wants to he'd want to see out uh, leading the US in the World Cup next year. But if
Yeah.
there is any kind of remote thing that he would come back now, I would have him back in a heartbeat. Absolutely now, because I still think that somebody can come in, organise that team, and we still have a fair chance of doing something in the Europa League. But I just think if we carry on as we are, we'll be out. If not in the quarterfinal, we'll be out in the semi-final if it's against Lazio. Also,
So
you were quoting, it's true that his record on paper and his experience, it's there for all to see. And obviously, you're sort of quoting his what he referred to as Mr. Hindsight in his
I didn't.
quite
No,
a
I
long
didn't
win.
quite. I've not even got there yet.
But and it's true what he says. But he's and he's look. He's deserved the chance to go to the highest level in the game, which is the Premier League, and he's got there. But I'm afraid I've just not got that confidence with him. And also the other thing I think that's really worrying me now. He seems to be quite happy to dig out players in the public, which I never think is a good idea. Sure, if you want to have a word with them, within the confines of the dressing room, whatever, then fine. But I mean, I think doing it in public is never a good thing, and it's a sure sign to me that there are issues in the behind the scenes.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I would prefer for any dissent, any unhappiness to be kept in the changing room and for it to be dealt with there instead of in the public eye. But maybe there is also the possibility that he feels that he's tried doing that over the course of the season and he's tried doing other things. And maybe it's just a case of this is the last resort. This is the last chance. The last thing I can do is to dig him out publicly and see whether that gets a result. Because Ange has not generally got out and had a go at players. I think this is the second time. I remember him saying something about Timo Werner, saying it wasn't acceptable, it wasn't good enough, the way that he was playing. And then obviously the second time with Bissouma. And to be fair, I think he's got a point. Basuma has not been good this season at all.
He hasn't, but I just still think digging somebody out in the public is not great. Listen, my son works for Arsenal,
Them lot.
and
Yeah,
so he can tell me certain things where it's not just like the car park attendant said this. Now he's telling me that people had actually worked in Tottenham, and they're saying that he's not particularly well liked. And I mean, you don't have to be liked and all this lot, but he's not particularly well liked. There's a lot of the coaching staff don't like him at all. You know,
okay. It's it's difficult, isn't it? I mean, do you always have to like your boss to do a good job?
no,
I mean, it helps if you
clearly,
like your boss,
yeah.
but do you have to like your boss?
Now, but the persona he gave, like before when he first came to the club and the interviews he gave, that's almost completely evaporated now, hasn't it? And he's like, he's very moody. He doesn't like certain questions, and he doesn't like a lot of questions being thrown his direction. And this whole thing he gave out about Mr. Hindsight was, in a sense, look, in a way, I do kind of understand where he's coming from, but there was another thing he was going on about after the Fulham game. We was talking about. The penalty that Bergevall didn't get,
Yeah,
saying that, well, we as a club we don't moan, unlike other clubs, right? Which
yeah.
if you're gonna moan, or if you're not gonna moan, then shut up and don't say nothing, because otherwise it's perceived that you're having a moan. So it's silly, really. I mean, I agree. I mean, the likes of Ferguson and Mourinho and Wenger, they would plant something in the referee's mind in the build-up to a game each week, and that's professionalism. If they can do it, then we should be doing things like that as well.
I think
But
his point was that when things go wrong against Tottenham, when things aren't given, very little of it gets made in the press. But when things go in Tottenham's favour and it perhaps shouldn't have, then you don't, that's all you hear about. Like the Bergvall challenge against Liverpool, where if he hadn't already been on a yellow card, he would have been sent off. If the ref had pulled it straight back because he let it play on, the ref couldn't pull it straight back and he couldn't send him off. Let's be honest. I mean, that's just a daft rule, but it did work in our favour. But the press and the media just went on and on and on about that, you know. And if it goes the other way, we don't get the same kind of coverage. We don't get the same kind of. It's frustrating. I can see from his point of view how it's annoying. It's not so much the club needs to complain. Things need to be highlighted in the press by the media for there to be some kind of backlash. But because there isn't, what can happen? Hey, you're here with us somewhere in the background. How you doing, eh?
Hey guys, how are you? I've been
I'm
I've
good. I
been
didn't even
listening.
know you joined us.
no,
Hey, how you doing?
I'd seen the A, but I didn't see no video, so I thought I don't know whether he was here or he wasn't here.
Nah,
No, no. A is our man of mystery. He's our international man of mystery. He does not show his face, but he brings us and drops us some nuggets of wisdom every so often.
So let's see, let's
uh,
have let's have your wisdom then.
we're gonna feel like we're ganging up on Stuart. Um,
I am big
I
enough,
think
and plenty will agree I'm ugly enough to take it. So go for it.
yeah, I'm not a happy bunny. We're awful. There's a spark missing. Players look uncoached. I think we have a great group of players, and I think they performing way below what they should. Um, I think if we stick with Ange, we can kiss the Europa goodbye. And saying all of that, there's still this piece of me that wants it to work so badly because, throughout sporting history, there's these stories where teams go through these horrible phases and then somehow bring it back together. So that always lingers. But then there's a part of me that thinks, that's just hoping beyond hope. I don't like what I'm seeing right now. I don't like the decisions that have been made. Um, I think there's some overcompensation from not resting to over resting. We've got an international break coming up, and you resting players that are then, going to go away and maybe or maybe not play for their international team. So maybe he's thinking of that. But you just look at the stats: 3 losses in a row to Arsenal. Never happened in a long time, 20 years. Fulham's done the double over us. How many teams have done the double over us? Too many.
Well, they haven't done the double, have they? Because we drew at Tottenham, didn't we?
Yeah, we drew at
Did we
not
with
White
it?
Hart Lane.
Muniz,
We drew at the London, the North London or whatever it's called, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Yeah.
whatever it is. But if you just look at the number of doubles that have been done on us already, and we still got Chelsea and Liverpool away to come, we're trotting closer to that 19 league losses in a season quite easily. And yeah, we're just floating and doing nothing. And really good players look decidedly average. I just didn't understand some of the things that were being done. And even in the Alkmaar game, you felt that it was really on edge. And if they had scored first, it would have been a horrible atmosphere, I feel. But, I'm glad we came through that. But I think the teams, the weaker teams are gone now. And we look at how we function against the lower to mid-table teams in the Premier League, and we're going to come up against that and better now. So I fear for us, but still hoping against hope. We look like we need a lot of luck in every game, and it's not us creating too much. Yeah, what else is there to say? There's nothing much I can say about it. But yeah, I'm with you on this one.
Yeah, no, I agree with a lot of what you said. I mean, it's and I think that the most telling part is that if somebody else was to come in and was to take over this team right now, if that was possible, I would be a lot more confident about us maybe really going for the Europa. I just think with Ange in there now, and you see the way they're playing, there's something's just not right, and his demeanor isn't right as well. And I mean, and I can only think because anybody with that kind of record that he's had, I know we've had the injuries, etc., but anybody with that kind of record would have been out a long time ago. And I can only believe the only reason why he's still there is obviously partly because of the injuries, but partly because they know who they would like to come in, but will not take over in the middle of the season. So therefore, best keep him in position until the season's completely gone, which might be in a couple of weeks' time, whenever the quarter-final is.
I mean, I believe we're still the favourites for the competition, and the bookies don't generally get this kind of thing wrong. If they think we're favourites, we've got to be in with a decent shout. Eintracht Frankfurt are a better side than Alkmaar, but they're not in in the top echelons of the Bundesliga. Yes, they're up towards the top, but they're not the top 3 or 4 sides. And after you get past the top few sides in the Bundesliga, there is a significant drop off. It's not as strong a league as the Premier League is.
Didn't they win the Europa a couple of seasons ago or something?
I don't know. They might have done. No, I think they won the conference a couple of seasons ago.
Or did they?
Yeah, conference league.
So, I mean, they're no fools. And look, no German team who gets into Europe is going to be that bad. I'm not saying it. They're clearly not going to be of buying standard, but they're still no. I mean, look, we're 14th or whatever it is in the Premier League, and we're not there by we're unlucky. We're there because we've lost so many bloody games. We deserve to be where we are.
Yeah, that's Well, we've lost so many games, but why have we lost those games? If you look at our defensive record when we haven't had the injuries, it was very, very strong. The number of goals that we've conceded without our first choice defence is not great. But when we've had our first choice defence available, suddenly we look a lot better.
Yeah, but
And
how many of that resulted in wins? Not many. It's about 40%.
And we still lost to the likes of Ipswich and Crystal Palace with the likes of Romero and Van de Ven
yeah,
in situ. So and all those games we lost last season with them on board. So yes, clearly would be a better team with most of those players playing and fully fit. But we've lost so many games, and we've lost enough games with all the players or most of the players available.
my thing for ever since this whole thing started, if we need to get rid of Ange, my thing has always been I'm not going to seriously put my judgment hat on until we've got that central defence partnership back and fit and playing together. If when they come back, when they're playing together, we are still playing like this with this lack of focus and lack of general attacking intent, then yeah, there's going to be a big problem. We need to look at it. But at the moment, whenever they've been on the pitch, we've looked better. When Romero was on the pitch against Fulham, we looked better. When we were playing with Van de Ven on the pitch against Bournemouth, we looked better. When they were both playing together against Alkmaar, we looked very good at times. But again, these players have not trained, with the side. They've not had tactical training for much of the season because they've been out for so long, and because the time between games has been so short, there's not been an opportunity to do tactical work. The players themselves have said it's literally been a case of keeping yourselves ticking over in terms of fitness and keeping yourself loose. They've not had a time to do any tactical work whatsoever.
That
So what are you supposed to do with that?
I don't disagree with what you're saying there. But you've got to remember that since the middle of February, our schedule has eased off tremendously. We've had full gaps in our schedule. There was even a 2-week gap just recently, and we've got another big gap coming up. So you can't keep on using it. I definitely agree that although the players are back, they're not match sharp. And in that respect, you probably would be better if they did have games to play and stuff like that. So I agree with you on that. But it's just when I see them play, I presume you didn't see the analysis on Match of the Day last night and how the
I
players
did
were
not.
just
No.
strolling. But I mean, I really highlight it. It was interesting to watch. Did you see that the analysis on Match of the Day last night?
No, but I didn't have to. I watched it. I watched
Yeah, that's
Doggy.
the. I mean, we saw.
Give
Yeah, we saw
a
players
few
struggle.
others.
Spence.
Yeah.
I think Jed Spence has been one of our strongest players this season. He's been probably the standout breakout player, but he was just slow getting back. Now, is that down to the fact he's fasting for Ramadan? I don't know, but I suspect it may well have something to do with it. I mean, I know I've done fasts. I fairly regularly do 48-hour fast as part of my diet, and it's something that is very difficult to do. And I would not want to go running having not eaten or drunk anything for 8 or 9 hours. It's got to be really tough on the body. But for me, again, we've got players coming back, and you were talking about when we had a gap we had gaps in the schedule, and we were doing better, or we had the opportunity for players to come back. That was February. Andrew was nominated for Manager of the Month in February because we had 3 wins and 1 draw in the league. So it's only when we've got European schedule back on where we've gone and lost, or we've lost one game, drew another game, performed badly in both of those league games. And there's no hiding that we performed badly in both of those league games. But they were both coming off the back of European matches where the teams we were playing had 5 extra days of rest and preparation.
Well, what can I say? I mean, it's better. I wish. Look, I would be more I've been more on the optimistic side of things, but I've just got to this point now where, and when I see,
I know
I've
you want
just
to be
seen them play.
optimistic. I know it's there,
It's
John.
just
I
I
know
want.
it's there. I know you can do it. But
No,
it's
no,
been
I
a
know,
tough
but
season.
it's just now I'm looking at it now, and I see the performance yesterday, and I think to myself, look, to give ourselves the best chance, because look, our season's now come down to the Europa League, right?
Hmm.
The league is gone. It's come down to the Europa League, and I still believe very much that if somebody was to get to that team, our team, they could. We've still got one of the best squads in the competition, and they could. With somebody who knows what they're doing, we could win that competition. But I just think the way I'm looking at it now, with Ange at the helm, it's not going to be too long before we're out of the competition, and then our season is completely. It's just well, I can't think of the last time we've had such a bad season as this. Even the season when Ramos was in charge, the year after we won the League Cup, and we lost. I don't think we won in our first 10 games or something like that. But we still resurrected that season, and we finished, I think, eighth or something like that in the league.
8th.
I
2008,
mean,
2009, we
yeah.
lost, was the last time we lost 15 games in a season. Finished the season with Redknapp in charge, and we finished 8th. So, yeah.
I
Okay,
mean,
right.
from our
Let's use.
position, I was just going to say, from the
Yeah,
position we're in now, there's quite a gap between us and Man United. So like Brentford and teams like that above us, there's quite a gap now, and I think we'll be hard pressed to go much further than maybe 13th or 12th till the end of the season now. That's pretty damning on the team, really.
so we're 3 points behind 13th place, which is Manchester United. We are 5 points behind Crystal Palace in 12th.
And then
Um,
look at Brentford and all that lot. We're miles behind.
yeah, Brentford 41, so that's 7 points. I mean, you can make that up in 9 games. You can. But it is an ask. It is a bit of an ask. Okay, let's put a hypothetical out there very quickly. Okay, Ange is relieved of his duties. Who comes in? Because any
Well,
Premier League manager is not going to leave their club at this point to take over Tottenham Hotspur.
I think somebody might. I think with to come in and have a shot at the European title, new manager Barnes. Ooh, that's a ticket for some of the guys that haven't been there before. The likes of Areola, Silva, etc.
I,
Frank.
the most likely ones that we're talking about is the Bournemouth manager and the Fulham manager, and both teams have got nice ties in the FA Cup to come.
Yeah.
I cannot see how we will entice them to come to us in such a mess at this moment. And they'll say, I'm not saying they won't come, but they will want to come at the end of the season. That's when they will come. And this is why I say that if we could get, because Potter said that he would like to come back and manage the club one day. I suspect that means sometime in the future. But if somebody was to thrust a contract in front of him, and he would take it, then I would absolutely love him to come back. And I think he could change our fortunes around quite quickly. Personally speaking, I know. I mean, I don't know if you know the story that when it looked like he was going to come back a year or two ago,
Yeah.
and in the end it didn't happen. And one of the reasons why was apparently he had a big fallout with that Donna Cullen, who's one of the board of directors. And I say that if she's still saying no, I don't want him back. If I was leaving, I say, well, you know what, Donna, there's the door, bye bye, and get him back in. As I'd
So
rather have him than that bloody
yeah,
Donna Cullen.
apparently at Tottenham there are 3 people who are effectively not in charge, but are like the inner circle at the top of Tottenham. One of those being Daniel Levy. That Donna Cullen is one of the other people, and there's a third one as well whose name is currently escaping me. If you know what it is, put it in the chat, and I'm sure it will jog my memory.
Well,
But
isn't it? Isn't
Donna
it
Cullen is not going anywhere, so if he's got a problem with her, that's not gonna get resolved.
Well, just tell her to shut up then. You know. Put it this way, under his stewardship, we can do something. Under her stewardship, nothing. I mean, what's she going to do? Personally speaking.
Okay, but if Ange goes now, you said we've got an international break. If Ange goes now, who comes in?
No, as I said, it would. If look, we clearly are not going to get anybody who's managing within the Premier League who we want. Will not come now. Clearly they will not. I mean, you're right. We're still in the Europa League, and that might be enticing. But I mean, both Areola and Silva, they're doing good jobs at their respective clubs. They both could get into Europe through their league placings. They could both win the FA Cup, and it's very open. I mean, if Bournemouth are at home to Man City in the FA Cup, and they're quite capable of beating them. And then look at the teams that are left in the FA Cup. It's anybody's. It really is. So that's that I can see why you wouldn't want to leave those particular clubs right now. So therefore, who could you get in? And the only one I can see is would be Poch if he'd want to. And I'm saying that if he'd want to come and leave the US. And also, I mean, I don't know much about him, but the guy who was the boss at Dortmund, I mean, I think he's free at the moment, isn't he? So but I'm not saying that's who I'd want. But I mean, who could you get in? I mean, if you can't get those people in, then you have to live with Ange until it blows, until the season's done. I agree. But if you can get somebody in, then I would get them in because the season can still be saved.
So I think the guy you're talking about for Dortmund is Nuri Sahin. Is that the guy?
I don't know. I just know that he's free.
Yeah, I believe he was extremely unpopular at Dortmund with players. So I'm not sure that's something I'd want to go for. You're still here, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
I think that the Europa League's a bigger ticket than the other two. Looking at the teams you've got to face that's remaining in the competition, I think if they weigh it up, they'll go for a Europa League chance.
So you think that Silva or Iraola would leave their current clubs in their current positions to join Tottenham and go up against Eintracht Frankfurt?
Yeah, you look at the squads and you look at the spending power possibly for the new manager next year. I think if they're looking at career advancement and glory, trophies on a European stage, I think they might consider it. So I would hope that they already started talking to these guys.
Well, according to TalkSport, I mean, I know shouldn't go to. I reckon that Tottenham are already drawing up a list of which Areola is their primary target. I just don't see them leaving their clubs now. I'm sure we could get one of them in the summer, but not now. I mean, I know we've got the carrot of Europe, but it's whoever comes in there, there's so many question marks over Tottenham at this moment in time. Plus, they're in really good, healthy positions with their clubs. I'd want to see that out and see what I could do with them before I took on the new challenge.
Yeah, that's what I don't think those managers are going to leave their clubs. Genuinely, if we're going to bring in a manager, I have a horrible feeling it would be Gareth Southgate. Because that just seems like a very Spurs type thing to do. Right, that's the kind of reaction that we get. And if it's not Gareth Southgate, it'll be Ryan Mason until the end of the season, and then we've got to try and see who could come in over the summer. And we're scrambling around. And last time we did that, we were going for managers of the likes of Gennaro Gattuso. I don't want to be doing that again. So it's tough. I mean,
Well,
I'm
it's
not saying that
unfortunate
I've got the
for
answers.
us because
Go on.
we're in a quarterfinal and we need something, and I don't think Ange can give it to us. That's where as much as I'd love him to succeed, the realist in me sees that he's not going to succeed, and we must prepare for more, yeah, sorrow, I guess, and more frustration. Um, I also like
It is the
I heard
Tottenham
you guys.
way, my man. It is the Tottenham way.
I listened earlier and I read the post on our group about being 27 years in management. You know, if you spend 27 years doing something, it's a lot of time and investment, and um, but you still haven't got it right on the biggest stage. One, two, I'm doing something for 25 years, and I welcome criticism. I try and take other people's opinion on board.
Mm.
Sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. It's no point getting your back up on it. You in this, people are upset with you because you haven't delivered. And I'd be quite upset with myself if I'm not the master of my craft after 27 years. I know that sounds harsh, and he's had injuries to deal with before. How did he deal with it? We all get thrown into horrible situations, but it's how you deal with it that's important. I have two issues. One, I think he's failed to adapt the way that he plays, which causes some injuries. He's made some decisions bringing people back that has worsened the injuries. And then there's some questions about why weren't you rotating like you're doing now earlier, when those sort of things would have reduced the amount of injuries. So, there's lots that we can point fingers at others, but I think he's got to look at himself first. And I think there's a big failure there. And I don't like it when people cannot be introspective and take responsibility. You can hear him say, "Oh, I'm responsible," but does his action show that he's actually taking responsibility? I don't believe so. And that's the biggest issue I have with him.
I think he's
Yeah,
certainly
like
being responsible with the squad. I mean, he could have taken risks on players. He could have risked playing Van der Ven yesterday. He could have risked playing Porro uh, on the right and played Spence over on the left before instead of playing Udogi and trying to get him some more time on the pitch and trying to play him in some kind of form. He could have done
yeah,
those
but
things,
the
but
horse
he's
is
trying to
bolted.
be responsible with the players he's got, even
The
though
the horse is
he's under a
bolted.
lot
The
of
horse
pressure.
is bolted. The horse is bolted. He brought Romero and Van der Ven back prior to injury, just after injury, before they got re-injured. And before that, you should have been resting people, and you didn't. And you didn't develop your squad. The squad's been developed because of the situation we've been in, and that's the silver lining. But you should have been doing it earlier. Um,
Okay, but he's
and I've
rotating
said
now, and
that to
people
my
are
staff.
complaining because he's rotating. He wasn't rotating before, and people were complaining he wasn't rotating.
No,
Now he is
I
rotating.
think
People are
you've got it
complaining he's
wrong.
rotating.
No,
Where
I
do you
don't
win?
think it's that. I don't think it's as black and white as that. I think it's about timing and doing things responsibly and building
Mm.
momentum. And I think he's failed to do that. I think he's doing things reactionary now, and that's not good either. Yes, by all means, rotate and stuff. But yesterday's rotation, I disagree with you. Van der Ven should have come on. You needed one senior centre back to be on, dealing with a big forward like Muniz, with pace. Davies was having a shocking game the whole game. It's not often that you say that, but he was appalling yesterday. And shifting Gray around mid game, I didn't think that was good either. So I think fine, you're resting Romero. He had 60 minutes or whatever it was. But Van de Ven should have come on. Van de Ven should have come on. He's got 30 minutes in him. Definitely got 30 minutes in him. Um, and he didn't do it. So again, it's about these decisions that you're making. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why it takes so long to take somebody off. Bliss and Johnson should have been off in the first half. That's it. You're not performing. You should be out, and you're not performing, and you can see the game drifting away from you. And it's not only about the game. You just have to look at everything that's gone before in the league and what's coming after this. And that continuous hopelessness, losses, it's not helping the confidence either. So there's a lot of things to manage. I do feel for him, but I feel like he's made poor decisions. That's contributed to the situation that we're in. Yeah, that sounds harsh, but I think that's quite true, in my opinion, anyway.
I do. I almost 100% agree with what you're saying. The thing about the centre backs, I did hear somebody say that he didn't want to take his problem with yesterday is that if he brought Van der Ven on, he would have had two left footers on at the same time, and that was his issue. So that's why he decided not to bring him on and put Gray back in the centre of defence. But look, I do fundamentally agree with what you're saying, and also I just look at our football now. It's so pedestrian now. It's just for the most part, it's just not exciting anymore. I'm not saying we're back to Conte style football, but it's what we're seeing.
I'm shuddering here.
But it's not entertaining. It's not entertaining for the most part.
It's not far off worse Conte, to be honest. It's not that far off, actually. Yeah, we've got to do something. This is just petering out into one of the worst seasons ever. He has a 3-year contract yet, so next year is his last year anyway. I hope they don't be too hasty with extending it. We've got to have a succession plan. I also don't see it as starting again by getting a new manager. I know that's kind of a theme. For me, the project is bigger than Ange. Ange is just a cog. It's about a way that you want to play, and it's about finding the next guy that can play that way.
Absolutely agree. And
yeah,
I mean, Ange is getting to an age where he's not going to be here for 10 years. 5 years is probably the limit, even if he turns things around this season. If he does as I hope and goes on to win the Europa League and then gets kept on for next season and things are better, realistically, we're not talking about this guy being here for a decade because of his age.
Somehow, if we make it to the final, we're not beating Man U for what time this season. They look to turn the corner. I don't think it's going to happen.
I mean, they've got injury problems of their own. They had an 18-year-old defender on their last game, and he got injured, and he's going to be out for a while now. So it's
that Heaven guy.
Yeah, Heaven's out for a while now because of that. So they are beatable. I mean, every club is beatable. That's why we're favourites. I mean, sadly, we are also beatable, which is an issue.
Well, we're favourites with the bookies in this country. If you used to have a European-wide bookies table, I bet we're not favourites. And to be honest, I actually think that if I was to choose between Spurs or Man United of the English clubs, I think Man United are more likely to win it. Because one of the things is that they have the team have got a winning mentality. Despite how rubbish they were under Ten Hag, they still won the League Cup, and then they beat Manchester City and won the FA Cup last season. So they know how to get it. We've got this thing, and it's until like Newcastle, until we get over the line, it's gonna stay with us. So if
we're not going to get over the line chopping and changing managers every 18 months to 2 years. I mean, this is the thing. People, there was a lot of complaints.
I don't want. I was going to say, if we end up winning the cup, right? I still don't want Ange to be at the helm next season. I say thank you very much. You've done what you've said. You always win a trophy in your second year, etc., etc. Thank you very much, but we're gonna go on to somebody else now.
Okay, I agree that the project is bigger than one manager. Absolutely agree that. My concern is that Daniel Levy has a history of following one stream and then switching boats and going down a different stream in a completely different direction. And back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. We have not had an organic, consistent approach to our football in a very long time. So,
I,
you know, what
I
makes you
don't
think
think
that
he'll make
things are
that
going to be
mistake. I don't
any
think he'll make
different?
that mistake. I don't think he'll make that mistake again in terms of the kind of manager and the kind of football they play. So I don't think you'll be getting that type of manager coming in. He wouldn't get a Sean Dyche or David Moyes kind of play manager in now. To me, it's more likely he is going to go like for the Bournemouth guy or the Fulham guy. You know, and please do not mention Southgate again.
Well, it could have got worse. I could have said Roy Hodgson, so, which is another option. Yeah,
Really
I've even
dreadful.
seen I've even seen Harry Redknapp linked back to the club again this week. It's like, oh come on, please. He's 71 years old. He's not been in management for what, 3 years? So yeah.
I've heard that. Would you, out of interest, if they got shot of him now, right? Would you say, hey Harry, just come in and just stabilise it for the next 2-3 months to the end of the season? Is that such a terrible idea? I'm not
Do you
saying
know what I'd do?
I'm just asking.
Do you know what I'd do if it was down to me and Andrew's gone? If the decision of, you know, whether to keep Andrew or not was out of my hands and he was gone, but it was up to me to manage the boat for the last part of the season, I would say, right, Ryan Mason, come here. You are going to be ostensibly in charge of the club for the next period. But we're contacting Harry, and Harry will be coming along, and he will be working as a consultant with you, and he's going to be there for you to talk with, and for you to learn from, and to get the benefit of all of his experience. And that is where that's how we're going to take things until the end of the season. That's what I would do because I don't think, who's available. Sean Dyche, the manager you don't want me to talk about, Harry Redknapp, you know, and of course, who is it? Who is it? The other coach at the club, Matt something, Matt Wells. Matt Wells has got more qualifications than Ryan Mason, so maybe he'd take the step up instead.
Right. Let me just say one thing. I say this about Southgate. I like the guy. Don't get me wrong. There's lots of things that he did very well as England manager, but he wasn't. To me, there were times when he just, in terms of from a tactical point of view, he showed his limitations. But he's very good. He was brilliant with the media. He was very good with the players, very good as a man manager and stuff like that. And but I would say that again, a more astute manager would have got England over the line in one of the competitions that either the World Cup or the two
Yeah.
Euro finals. But I like Southgate, but not as our manager.
I just keep looking back at his time as Middlesbrough manager and the complete incompetence he was in charge of there. It was a nightmare. I would not
All
want
right, but
him to
in
do that.
fairness to him, he's got more experience since then.
Oh
At a
yeah,
much higher level. So
but he was effectively parachuted into the England job, as a temporary measure when Sam Allardyce, I don't know how to say it in a nice way, shit the bed. So after that, it was he impressed. He did well, but that doesn't mean I want him as Tottenham manager because I think he'd be a particularly bad club manager. He's got qualities as an international manager where people come together every few months and you're trying to piece together something from a disparate group of parts. But honestly, it's a club manager. I think I don't think he's got it. So not for me. But I wouldn't be the one in charge. I would not be the person placed in charge of finding that person anyway. That would be Johan Langer. So let's see if people would be happy with his choice. Maybe we'd be seeing a coach out of Sweden or Finland or somewhere like that. Somebody equally um, unimpressive to some. Let's put it that way. Okay. I don't want to finish this talking about Ange. What I do want to do is I do want to talk about the Calvin Bassey stuff. So yesterday, there was the referee blew his whistle. Tell didn't hear it and ran off with the ball, and then Calvin Bassey came in and absolutely chopped him at the ankle. And for me, that should have been a red card. If you'd seen that any phase of play, that would be a red card normally. How on earth that did not get flagged up by the VAR, I do not understand. And then he was the guy who tripped up Lucas Berraval in the box. And once again, nothing was given. It was looked at by VAR and they gave it. They said, oh, that's fine. That's just coming together. That's not just coming together. He missed the ball and tripped up Lucas Berraval. So, if Ange wants us to pick out these points and say, right, why are these things not being picked up? Let's discuss it. Why didn't we get those calls yesterday?
I have to be fair, I didn't see the one you're talking about in the first incident you're talking about, I must admit. The burger valve thing, I mean, they have they talk to on Talk Sport, that on the Monday they talk to
Yeah,
they talked to an ex-ref, and he said that initially he thought, like the ref, it wasn't a penalty. But there is one angle, and which is not the angle that they well, in fact, they never put it to the referee. But there's one angle where it was you can see he's taking his leg, and it was a
yeah,
penalty. So I agree. I agree on that. I don't like VAR, and when they have that program called Mike Up or something like that, where they go where what's his name? What's the head of the referees? What's the guy's name?
Oh, now you put me on the spot. Ex Howard Webb.
Yeah, How
There you go.
So he goes through it with Michael Owen, and they talk, and they talk, and you listen to the audio, and I'm telling you, I really don't like what I hear, because they can make a decision whichever way they want to make it, and you
Yeah,
can't go, and I think it's a cheat charter. If I'm not saying it happens, but you'll be a fool if you think that things don't happen. And if somebody wants a penalty, we'll give them a penalty or not. These kind of things do happen, and you listen to what they're saying, and I just don't. I don't trust some of these calls from VAR.
It was
yeah.
Stonewall penalty, and Bessie should have been off.
Basti should
From
have
my
been
point of
Basti
view.
should have been off before the penalty. I mean, he shouldn't have even been on the pitch to give away the penalty. If he'd gone
But
off, I don't see us
yeah.
losing that game. If we got the penalty, I don't see us losing that game either. It would have been 1-1.
Oh, do you
Um,
watch Spurs? Do you watch Spurs often? I think there's about a 50%
hey,
chance they scored 30
how many
seconds after.
penalties have we missed this season? How many penalties have we missed this season?
One quite
Do not
recently,
ask me
right?
how many penalties we've had this season, but how many have we missed? I think we've got a
I mean,
100% record from the penalty spot this year,
however, all right. Well, we
from
haven't
two
had that
Three
many
penalties.
penalties.
recently, right?
Yeah. Oh, dear me. Okay, and let's take it back a little bit further. Things that don't go our way. The Bournemouth game. Bournemouth player goes for a tackle, and his trailing leg. No, sorry, the follow through. He catches. I believe it was Bentancur, and the ref said, "Oh, it was on the follow through, so therefore it can't be punished." Now, remind me when Romero got sent off against Chelsea last season. Did he kick the play before the ball was there or after? Was it on the follow through? Was it? Yes, it was. So, you know, how come the rules are not consistent? If you kick someone
Well,
on
you
the
can
follow
say
through,
that
it's
happened.
as bad as doing.
Didn't happen in the Wolves Bournemouth game the other day, where was it the Bournemouth player who got sent off? I can't remember now. Somebody got sent off, and it was a similar kind of thing. Really, he's got the ball. He sort of touched the ball, and the ball sort of, it made his foot rise up, and so
Mhm.
it looks worse than it really is. I mean, football, it is a contact sport, and you're going to get these things. And
Yeah.
sometimes, I always remember years ago when the Arsenal player, Brazilian guy, got done by I think it was playing Birmingham or something
Oh
like that.
yeah.
And I mean, his foot got caught in the grass or something like that. These things happen, man. I remember Wenger going on about it, saying it's disgraceful, etc. Accidents happen, and they still will happen, and all this lot. And sometimes you overanalyze these things, and it seems worse than it is, particularly when they slow it down. And also, when it comes to VAR, if they want to choose to show the referee, if they ask the referee to go over and have a look, it very much depends on what shot they're going to show him. So, like for instance, yesterday in the Bergvall incident, as I said, there's one angle you see, and you think, yeah, it wasn't a penalty, but then there's another one, and you see, and it is a penalty. So if VAR decide not to show it, what are you going to do about it?
But VAR was brought in to try and make sure that things were not missed. That's the promise we were given. That was the brochure promise from them, and it's just not been that way. Basically, it's turned out just another way of covering the referee's ass, because unless it is a serious breach of the rules that the referee has missed, they're always going to back the referee, regardless of whether or not he's made a mistake, because they're
Let me
going to
ask
say
you. Let me ask
it
you.
was an
Let me ask Gay.
understandable error, an understandable decision. Go on,
Let me
A, what are
ask
your
you. Let me
thoughts?
ask Gay. If you could make up, choose now, right in this second, VAR stay or finish with, would you want it to go?
Oh, hell yeah.
I'd keep automated VAR only, offsides and goal line technology. That's it.
Well,
Right.
goal line
Okay.
technology was brought in before, and I think goal line technology
Well, that
actually improved the
works.
game because there was an immediate thing, but it's not linked to VAR.
No, I agree
For
with that.
me, VAR was a bad idea at the start. VAR remains a bad idea now, and would I get rid of it? Absolutely yes.
Yeah, I think I do because it kill it takes out a very important part of the game. That moment where you
Yeah,
jump up and down because you think your team scored a goal and stuff, and now the fella who sits in front of me at Tottenham, he always says, "No, no, no, I'm not going to celebrate until they kick off," and he's right in a way because you
yeah,
don't know. At Tottenham, I feel I've said this last week, but until the announcer says who scored the goal. I think to myself, hello, there's something going on. So you can't really celebrate fully. I just don't like it. As for um, offside, I agree. For offside, because it is a black and white thing in theory, but I just think that overcomplicates the offside rule. And to me, half these offsides that they give now, which is like by the minimum amount, right? You would never have, if the referee had given it in years gone by, you would never have said anything about it. So it's ridiculous that they bring it down to a millimetre or two. And
yeah.
also, so to me, they should make it simpler. And one way they can do that is all this crap about putting a line against the most forward part of the body that they can score a goal with. It shouldn't be about it. It should be where the feet are placed. Put the lines on where the feet are placed, and that is it. Nothing, no other part of the body. It doesn't really. If he's leaning over and his head's forward, so what? It's just where his feet are planted, and that's all that matters. And that would speed up the process.
I will admit I think it was semi-automated VAR semi-automated offsides they were using in the World Cup. I thought that was significantly better than what we're doing, which is every single thing is manually checked, and it takes so long. We've seen 9-minute delays,
Yeah.
9 minutes to decide whether or not a clear and obvious error was made. If
Well,
it's a clear and obvious error, it can be visible within a minute.
even in
It
the
should not take
goal,
nine.
even in the Liverpool goal yesterday in the cup final, you could clearly see he was onside, right? And yet they took
Yeah.
so long to bloody well make up their mind. And then once they did that, they then went back even further to see whether there was a foul in the build up to the goal. And it was like, it's just nonsense, in my opinion.
Which
You know,
breaks up the flow of the game, which means
yeah.
players are standing around waiting. Their muscles are getting cold. They're more likely to get more injuries. It's a ridiculous, ridiculous thing. There's got to be a time limit for me. If you're going to continue with VAR, which sadly I don't think it's going away, I think you've got to say the decision needs to be made within 30 to 45 seconds. Look at the angles very quickly, and you need to make a decision, and you need to go with it quickly. Either you're going with what the ref has to say, or you say no, the ref needs to reassess that, and it needs to be come down to the referee on the pitch who decides things like red cards and stuff like that. It shouldn't be a guy in a box somewhere. It's,
Well, funny enough,
for me, it's just not right.
Simon Jordan was going on about this the other day, and he said, really, and in a way, I'm making right. So if there is a call to be made, it should always go down. Let the referee re-referee what he's already done, and let him make the call. Don't put the pressure on you telling him to go and have a look. Let it be his call anyway, you know, and then he decides there and then.
Please don't put me on the same side as Simon Jordan. That's not fair to me. Oh, dear me. I'm still waiting for his interview with Daniel Levy that was recorded ages ago. I'm still waiting for that to come out. Okay,
haven't they broadcast that?
No, I've not heard it. I'm pretty sure I would have I would have heard that if it had been released. But maybe they're
Okay.
waiting until the season is over. It annoys me. But hey, okay, let's call a line it there. Unless you have anything left to say, John, do you have anything you would like to bring up before we say goodnight?
Come on, Poch.
Oh no. Uh, hey, have you got anything you would like to bring up before we say goodnight to our loyal listeners?
Please, Spurs, bring us some joy.
I second
All right,
that.
okay.
That's about it.
All right, I will just take my little moment to say thank you very much for listening, whether you are on Spotify, whether you're on YouTube. Thank you very much for listening along. And please subscribe. Please give us some feedback on what you like and what you don't like. And until next time, come on, you Spurs.
Bye. Bye.